Guys, I'm back again and I have for you today a review of The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Okay, I guess you could say this is one of the new releases of 2019 that has been just talked about so much before it even came out, and everybody was just, you know, well, I gotta read that when it comes out. But I must admit, I wasn't that over the moon about the idea of her writing a second part to Handmaid's Tale. So The Handmaid's Tale was booked out. I think it was written in 85, something like that. So that's a long time ago. And the idea, I personally always have problems when authors want to write second parts to their books, especially if the book was very big and very popular and then they want to write a second part to it, but they want to write the second part like 7+ years later. I'm not on board for that because I feel like you didn't lost momentum. So you need to like put the brakes on and just let that first book live for the rest of your life. You know, I think if you're going to write a second part, then you got to jump on that like that next year. Boom, you're writing that second book. Of course, after having read this book, I really feel like the Testaments has been resurrected out of the fact that the Hulu series, The Handmaid's Tale, has gotten so popular. Now, the only other book that I've read by Margaret Atwood it's called The Robber Bride, which I quite like that one, even though it's maybe not one that people talk about a lot. After that, I read The Handmaid's Tale in college. And then I read it again about 4 years ago with my book club. So I read The Testaments with Britta and Adam and Mel and Jess and Kathleen. We all got together and decided to buddy read The Testaments. I think we were all kind of like, should we really be doing this? Britta, I'm gonna blame you, girl. It's your fault because you were the one who suggested it. But we all agreed. So anyway, and so I thought, okay, let me read this. I'll read it in a group and it'll go fast. But unfortunately, the read along didn't quite jive with my schedule because I was going away for about 4 or 5 days. So I just got on the Testaments this past weekend. Like I read it Saturday, Sunday, and this morning, Monday morning. And I'm just gonna have to say right out, it's gonna be a no for me. I had a lot of problems with this book. Okay, it reads fairly quickly in the beginning, but I think it's the last, maybe 30% of the book where the pacing, it goes off track somewhere. And you just kind of like, okay, come on, hurry up. Essentially, we all kind of know what this ending is going to look like when we open up the book. You kind of have an idea. The story is told through 3 points of view. So it's through the point of view of Aunt Lydia and the point of view of 2 young women. Problem is there, because when you have the 3 points of view, you know, side by side in a way, because you're having them every couple of chapters, you're seeing how strong one point of view is over another, and the point of view that is the strongest is Aunt Lydia's point of view. In the construction of the story, we can see how Atwood is trying to make this like a real kind of feminist toned story. And okay, I say feminist with air quotes because I think I think it's in the Hulu series. I think they make Aunt Lydia, her profession before was a teacher. And in the Testaments, they make her previous profession be a judge. Okay, so that's kind of like changing, changing an aspect of the character that is fairly important in a way. But as you read from the beginning, you quickly come to the conclusion that the characters are not fully developed. They're not developed enough. That she just gives you the strict minimum, maybe a little bit more, but not nearly enough to make these characters very believable. The second part of the story that was a major, major fail for me is that it felt like nothing was happening the entire book. Because basically what she did was she took a lot of the different aspects of The Handmaid's Tale and she put it into this book again. So you're hearing, stonings, beatings. You're hearing that stuff all over and over again. You're thinking, okay, we know. Now what's going to happen? And nothing ever really happens. And it's kind of boring. It's not kind of boring. It is boring. And I felt like this whole book was like a waste of the possibilities that you had to really make a decent part 2 of the book, which led me to believe, girl, you should have just abstained and just stuck with the Hulu show. But, here it is. She had to do it. But and look, I'm going to be honest with you. The writing isn't stellar. I mean, Margaret Atwood is a seasoned writer. If you read, or if you read The Handmaid's Tale and you read this book, you can tell the writing is not of the same caliber. No, they're not in the same worlds. And that is really disappointing for me because I felt like, okay, even if the story she messed up, the writing should be great from her because she has written so many, really great books. She is the Canadian writer. And I felt like the writing was just not good at all. She had these little cliche phrases all the time that she kept using that were just cheesy, like not possible. The feeling or ambiance of the book was too light in comparison to the intensity that she was trying to give off. She was trying to give off The Handmaid's Tale's intensity in this book, but it was so much lighter that everything was all the way up here, and it doesn't fit. Yeah, would I recommend that you read it? No, I wouldn't recommend that you read it because I'm sure there are better books out there from Margaret Atwood. I would say, some people say, oh, well, do I need to read The Handmaid's Tale to read the Testaments? I would say, no, you don't really need to. Because she repeats a lot of what happens in The Handmaid's Tale. She kind of repeats it off here in the book. That is the stuff that's really important that gives you the real sustenance of the story. Now, I feel like if you don't want to read The Handmaid's Tale, what you can read is the graphic novel of The Handmaid's Tale. That would be a lot quicker. It'll give you the real idea of what's going on. It's done really well. Artwork is great. Follows the story really well. I would say if you absolutely want to read the Testaments and you don't want to read The Handmaid's Tale, or you feel like you don't have time to read it or whatever, read the graphic novel and then read the Testaments. That's what I did just to refresh myself on some things. I read the graphic novel, The Handmaid's Tale, when I was on my weekend. I read that graphic novel and then, and then I could get into the Testaments. But in essence, I think if you don't read The Handmaid's Tale, I still think you can get into the story of the Testaments, but you'll be missing the jewel, because I think the jewel really is The Handmaid's Tale. That is the story for me, and that is the story that should be left as the most important. The one that holds up all of the things that she's talking about that is wrong with societies that try to control women and try to control their bodies and try to control, birthing babies and not birthing babies and who you birth them with. And all of that is so well done in The Handmaid's Tale. There was no reason to have to do the Testaments, in my opinion. And it's good that you know, some stories end and you don't know what's happening to the characters later, because I think that gives room for us as readers to imagine what would happen to these characters. You know, will they survive? Will they get married? Will they die? What will happen to them? And each one of us will think different things will happen to these main characters. And I think it's much more interesting to leave a really, really good book like that than to 20 something 30 years later write a second part to a book, and you're gonna base the book more on the fact that there's a TV series, you know, of your first book that's doing really well. So you're just going to take over from there and write a book. It's like, no, no, no. That is like a disaster waiting to happen. And frankly speaking, it was like reading a train wreck that was about to happen, in my opinion. So that's all I have for you today. I'm really sorry about this, but it's a no ma'am. I gave this one a 1 star. Yeah, I'm going to be hard. And that's mostly because Margaret Atwood can write, but in the Testaments, you would have thought she was a debutante writer. But anyway, that's my opinion. Bye.